I think that I would have, hired a coach or found myself a mentor, someone specific, early on in the game. I didn't really start doing that until I was well into my 30s. And I think if I had started that earlier, that would have been a tremendous asset, no question.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest today, Neil Palache. But before I introduce you to him, I have a quote for you. Anders Holm said, "Practice being curious, want to know things, ask questions." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insights, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Neil, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Yes, I am, Neil. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show, Neil. Neil Palache is a pioneer in the money coaching business. His unique audience of divorced and widowed women, coupled with his unique approach to money coaching, truly makes him one of a kind. Nobody runs a class, seminar, workshop or meeting like he does. Please welcome Neil Palache, owner and founder of the Wealth Creator Company for Women in Westlake Village, California. Neil, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, I'll be glad to, Neil. Thanks. So let me start with the personal very quickly. So I came over to the States in 1979 and let's see, I went to college out here, then went into the life insurance business. The same year I went into the life insurance business, I actually met my wife, or my wife-to-be anyway. We've now been married 29 years, and I have 3 kids, twin 12-year-olds and a 14-year-old. And I sold insurance and did investment planning and financial advising for the better part of 25 years. And for the last 7 years, I've been a money coach. And essentially, as a money coach, I specifically work with divorced and widowed women and help them get back on their feet financially once they've gone through that quite traumatic, life transition, as it were. So that's what I've been doing over the past 7 years, and that's what I plan to be doing for some years to come.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you're a money coach and you help divorced women, can you just give us a little bit more detail about the type of thing that you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I think your audience is probably aware of, what insurance agents do or investment advisors and so forth. So selling insurance and selling investments, managing money and so forth is what those folks do, which is what I used to do. And what I do now is I run workshops and seminars, mastermind groups, speaking engagements, and individual and group coaching. So this is more of an educational type of approach rather than me getting involved with the products and the actual managing of money. I am set up in a way that people essentially buy programs from me. Most of the programs are me in person working with the group, working with the individuals. Some of what I do is on audio or webinar type programs. And the divorced and widowed women in this case, which is my marketplace, are learning what they need to learn in order to now live, if you will, as a single person after they've been married for a number of years, learning the things that they may not know because they were doing it either with their spouse, or maybe in some cases they weren't doing it at all. So my job is to kind of fill in the gaps and figure out what they need to know so that they can do all this stuff themselves ultimately.
Mm-hmm. So what you offer isn't about the dividing of assets in a divorce. Then it's the sort of managing your finances after that. Is that what you do?
Primarily, yeah. Great question. Yeah, primarily. So I am working with my clients following divorce. Now, in some cases, I get brought in by their attorney or their mediator, so forth, during the divorce, just to discuss the issues of what they will need, or what in this case she will need. But yeah, I mean, you've got the legal counsel, mediators, and other financial advisors that are working out the specifics of what spousal support, child support, or splitting of assets might be. But now the question is, what does the recipient do with that money? How does she live? Where does she live? What are the best things to do? How does she set up the budget to make sure she doesn't run out of money, et cetera, et cetera? Does she have to get a job? Is she going to start a small business? What is it going to take for her to live this life? So very good question. Yes, mostly post-divorce issues.
Mm-hmm. And what do you enjoy most about what you do, Neil?
Well, I have to say the thing that is most enjoyable, well, first of all, it's a big, I suppose, pat on the back for me in terms of acquiring a client, because, I mean, all of my clients are women, and although I've been called otherwise, I'm actually a man. The idea that I'm getting hired to begin with is terrific. I find that to be a compliment in and of itself. But the biggest thing that puts a big smile on my face is getting out 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years with some of these folks, and then seeing what they've been able to accomplish, and that I've at least been a small part in helping them to get to that, and that they've grown so dramatically over that period of time that has allowed them to move forward with their life and be happy and be financially secure, and so forth. So I would say that is definitely the biggest win for me.
What is it that drives you?
Well, yeah, look, I think we've all been through our own challenges, right? I mean, my parents went through a divorce. I've got friends that went through a divorce, and we've all unfortunately got people around us where someone's passed away. And you see what happens. At least I did growing up. I saw what happened, and when I was selling insurance and doing investments, it was such a long ways away that I would see the results. In fact, in some cases, I still haven't seen the results of what I may have done 30 years ago or 20 years ago. But when I'm working with people today, the results are often very quick, and I get to see that, and that really motivates me to get up in the morning and get out and see people so that they can do the same thing that I know that I've helped someone else accomplish. So it's a real driving force for me.
And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
Well, I spend a lot of time with my kids, with my wife and kids. I mean, as I said, I've got two 12-year-olds and a 14-year-old, so life is pretty busy. We are fortunate in that my wife is a stay-at-home mum, and she loves that role, and that, provides for a lot of freedom in that regard. I love to get out and watch a movie and go out for dinner. Basic stuff, nothing too complex, but it's also nice to get out and, go for a walk with the kids, go to the park, do stuff with the kids. It can be very relaxing and enjoyable. And sometimes, quite frankly, I just want to sit on the couch and do nothing occasionally.
And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Well, I mean, in terms of, I think both on the personal side and the business side. On the personal side, I was surrounded by entrepreneurs as I grew up. I mean, my father has I mean, he's been a business owner in one way or another throughout my entire life. He owned a little hamburger joint in London, like in 1960, when, in fact, my mother was pregnant with me because I was born in 62, so he still had that in 1961, 1962. He's owned hairdressing salons and restaurants and service businesses and all sorts of things. So he's very entrepreneurial. And I look around my family, my uncles and aunts and cousins and even my grandparents were all self-employed. So on a personal level, I have seen self-employed entrepreneurship my entire life. On a business level, I was very fortunate to be involved in a business, the life insurance business, and there were a lot of great entrepreneurs because over here, most of the folks in the life insurance business are self-employed. They're not employed by the insurance companies. They're just contracted by them, but they're self-employed. So there's a lot of tremendous entrepreneurship that goes on in the life insurance business over in the States, and I was surrounded by some amazing people that really helped me to learn how to build a life insurance business and be an entrepreneur, be in business for myself. So, yeah, I had a lot of terrific role models.
Yeah. Neil, can we just talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Oh, it's a great question because... I started in the life insurance business when I was 21. And even before that, I'm just trying to think, I did have a couple of jobs, but I remember working the markets, the swap meets out here, when I was 17, 18, and 19 years old. I was an entrepreneur doing that. But I have to say, all right, at 21, when I went into the life insurance business, even though I was a quote-unquote, self-employed, small business owner, I think the biggest challenges for me at that time were realizing that I'm there's no salary anymore. There's just the revenue that I'm generating at the time. It was through commissions. And I've got to create consistency, and that means I've got to prospect regularly and prospect consistently and be persistent. And so I think the greatest challenge was realizing that if I don't get up and do it, nobody will.
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
No.
Okay.
No, I never had any doubts. I suppose there's always the stuff that's kind of in the back of your mind about whether or not you can do this or that or the other. But those are always way, way back in my subconscious. So I'd say no, I didn't have any doubts. I knew that I could get out there and talk to people. I loved to talk to people. I still love to talk to people. And as a result, as long as I was talking to people and telling them what I did, and if I spoke to enough people about what I did, then I knew that there were going to be a certain percentage of those people that were going to want to do business with me. So I was pretty confident all the way along. I think in my 20s I was probably beyond confident. I was probably a bit cocky, but that served me well, and I calmed down as I got into my 30s, so I'm okay now.
Yeah. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
Well, I tell you, there definitely have been a couple of mistakes. I remember when I was about 30. Talk about the cockiness in my 20s. So I was actually earning quite a bit of money in my 20s, and in my late 20s particularly. And cockiness kind of kicked in, didn't it? So, I had to not only buy the house, but I had to buy a second property, and I had to, look good and do this and do that. And so I went a little bit overboard and caused myself some financial hardship as a result. Obviously recovered from that, but nevertheless, sometimes you get a little bit pig-headed, don't you? So I did anyway, and for me that definitely caused a setback because I got a little bit full of myself. So I think that's primarily what had happened to me at that point.
What are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
I think the main thing, I think, that has always set me up well, and of course the listeners might be a little older than what I'm about to talk about me in terms of being a teenager, but if you have jobs when you're in high school, when you're in college, even in middle school, if you're out there washing neighbors' cars and mowing their lawn, I don't know if kids do that stuff anymore, but I certainly did. It builds a certain amount of understanding as to what money really means and how hard you have to work to get it, and then how hard you have to work to keep it. If you're a little older, if you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go from this job, maybe you're in a corporate setting or you're working in a small business environment as an employee, and you're thinking that you are going to go the self-employment route, become an entrepreneur, I would say to you, just understand that just because you're good at your job doesn't mean that you're good at being a business owner. Now, having said that, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying recognize that if you are an expert in cooking, let's say you are running a restaurant, you're managing it, or let's say you're even the chef at that restaurant, but you're not the owner, and you say, okay, you know what, I can do this. So now you're going to go open up your own restaurant. You're going to be the owner. You're still going to be the chef, but you're now going to be the owner of the restaurant. Recognize that when you add that ownership role, that it's a very different role than that of a chef. So once you've recognized it, I would say go get yourself a little bit of education. Maybe take a course online or otherwise. Maybe get yourself a business coach and learn what it takes to run the business, because you're already a fantastic chef, so that's not an issue. But if you don't run the business properly, if you don't understand the financials, if you don't see that you've got to bring in a certain amount of gross revenue, sell a certain amount of meals, keep your overhead under control, you can have the best food on the planet, but be out of business in a year. So just make sure that you're well prepared for entrepreneurship, for business ownership.
Some good advice there, Neil. Thank you. Can we talk about your entrepreneurial journey a little bit more now? Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
I think it's absolutely crucial. I think that you have to surround yourself with people that buy into your culture, buy into your business culture. So, what is the mission, the vision of your business, of you? What do you believe in? How do you want your business run? How do you want your clients treated? How do you want the public, your community, to view your business? And when you sit down and you're talking to your next employee or your first employee or your consultant, your outsourcing, whoever you're using to do certain parts of the work that is necessary to get your business rocking and rolling, make sure that they buy into what it is that you're all about. So I think that the culture of your company, however small, however big, is absolutely crucial and needs to be communicated clearly to anybody that you work with. And if they don't buy in, then they're just not right for the business and for you, and that's okay. Doesn't make them a bad person, doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you and they need to find someone else that fits the role better. And that's a good place to come from, I think.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Yeah, I think that yes, there are. And I think that, if it's possible, don't get too full of yourself. It's okay to be confident, but it's not good to be overconfident. And I think I got overconfident, which led me to some of those financial issues when I was about 30, and those could have been avoided. I think be a good listener, be a better listener. I think that's how I would have avoided it, because there were people around me that were telling me things that would have helped me avoid it or minimize the mistakes that I made. And so, listen. And I think that I would have hired a coach or found myself a mentor, someone specific, excuse me, early on in the game. I didn't really start doing that until I was well into my 30s. And I think if I had started that earlier, that would have been a tremendous asset, no question. Yeah.
Do you just talk a little bit more about coaching and the benefits of it, Neil? Because I think this is something that comes up from time to time with different people. In fact, quite a lot of people talk about it, but I'd just be interested to hear a bit more from you about it.
Well, coaching to me is just crucial. It's interesting to me how we look at business and we get into business, and we don't really surround ourselves with people that have already done it. And I think to myself, well, why? Okay, well, sometimes why didn't you surround yourself by that type of person? And often it's because you just don't know anybody that would be suitable, or you don't think of it. You're not in that kind of group of people where that might be accessible to you. But it is extremely important when you look at athletes, top professional athletes, in fact, not necessarily even at the top, you can't name one that doesn't have a coach. In fact, some of the really, really famous athletes have multiple coaches. And I understand that they're being paid millions of dollars and they've got unlimited resources, and I get that. But, when you've got somebody, in the soccer game, you might think of a Rooney or someone like that. I know that you're from Manchester, so I thought I'd say that, even though I know you're not a big soccer fan, but he's got a coach, but. I mean, that coach is not teaching him how to play football, for crying out loud. The guy knows how to play football. So why does he need a coach? So when somebody says, look, well, I'm basically in sales. Okay, I know how to sell. Why do I need a coach to know how to? Well, you don't need a coach to know how to sell. You need a coach to be accountable to. You need a coach to hone your skills. You need a coach so that instead of making 4 sales out of 10 meetings, you make 6 sales out of 10 meetings. It's all about making you better, not making you good, which is what you already are. You're already good, but you want to be better, and you want to be the best. You want to be at least the best that you can be. So if you find yourself a good coach, whether that's a money coach, which I happen to know a good one, or a business coach, or a marketing coach, a fitness coach, a nutritional coach, whatever it is that you need. Obviously, we don't all have unlimited funds, but there's lots of resources out there, and some of them don't cost a great deal of money. So I would find someone that can work as a mentor, as a coach, and can give you some feedback and provide some level of accountability. It's very, very important.
So you mentioned that you've been you've had a coach since you were in your 30s. Has that been continuous, or has it been on and off?
Well, no, it's been continuous, but it hasn't been the same people. So I started, my first coach was in 1995, so that would have made me 33. And I actually used to travel to Canada. I would travel to Toronto and go to a quarterly meeting, and it was a group coaching type of a scenario. And I coached with them for several years. They eventually expanded, and I didn't have to go to Toronto. They had them in Los Angeles and San Francisco and Vancouver, British Columbia, and so forth. So I did some work with them. So then in about 2002, 2003, took a little bit of a break, but then I hired a marketing coach because I was looking at transitioning out of the traditional financial services field into the coaching field. And I really needed to kind of get an idea of how the heck I was going to do that, what my market was going to look like, who my target market was going to be. So I hired a marketing coach. And then more recently, I hired a business coach. I know that you know Casey Eberhardt.
Yep.
And so, Casey, I've been working with Casey starting last year up until present. And he's had, a terrific impact on me. So it's been continuous, but not continually with the same person or group.
Have you ever been in a mastermind?
Yes. In fact, that's one of the things that I'm involved with now with Casey. I mean, I do some individual coaching with him, but he has a mastermind group called the Platinum Inner Circle. And so there are, I believe there's 41 people in that group. Now, I've been in a mastermind group before, and in fact, I run a mastermind group as well for money coaching. And those are very, very powerful. I mean, mastermind groups run properly are very, very powerful and very helpful and can really help people grow their businesses. So as an entrepreneur, I would definitely recommend getting involved in a mastermind group or even beginning one if you can't find one.
How much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business, Neil?
It influences me quite a bit. Gut feeling to me is very important. I would say that the gut feeling comes into place with people. When I meet someone, I'm kind of a gut person. Now, I will say that to some degree that can get you into trouble. I wouldn't use the gut alone anymore. But the gut is a place to start. I meet a person, you shake their hands, you look them, eyeball to eyeball, and, you make a decision and they're making a decision. Do they like you? Do you like them? Can you get along? What is it that you're trying to do with each other? I mean, I certainly do that with prospective clients, and I know for a fact they're doing it with me. I sit down and I meet a woman for the first time. She's considering hiring me. I'm considering taking her on as a client. And she's definitely getting that feel. I mean, women are very good with their gut feeling, that women's intuition. And I've learned a lot from the women that I've worked with, just in terms of getting a better feel for who people are and what to look for, and being okay with saying no, that this is not a good fit, either for a client relationship or someone that I'm going to hire or someone I'm going to partner with strategically, that it's okay to say no. In fact, if you're not saying no some of the time, then either you are an absolute bloody master at finding people, or you're just not being honest with who you're, with yourself, because you can't be right 100% of the time. It's not possible.
No. Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not, and many say the only constant in life is change. Neil, how do you try to keep up with change?
It is a day-to-day struggle or challenge. Let's use the word challenge rather than struggle. I am constantly learning, and I think that if you're not constantly learning and looking to learn, that's a mistake, particularly today with technology. There is so much change with technology. And look, with computers, let's take computers. I mean, those don't change that much. They get faster, their capacity is greater. That's not what changes. But the things that you're using and the things that you're able to do through the computer, the tablet, the phone, they're just tools, right? So there's technological change that goes on all the time, and you've got to be aware of that because your clients are looking and using different things. And if you're not in touch with them in the way that they want to be in touch with you, then that can be problematic. And I think out in the world, look at what's going on in the political world today in the United States. It's incredible. There's change every single day of the week. The economy is affected by what's going on. 10,000 miles away from you, something happens, and it affects your local economy, and it can. So you've really got to be aware of what's going on around you. You don't want to drive yourself mad. You don't want to be micromanaging change. You certainly don't want to be obsessing over it, but you definitely want to be aware of it, assess how it might affect your business, and then make sometimes what might be a slight adjustment in the way that you're doing things so that you can be a little bit ahead of the game and not always chasing your tail.
Yeah. And what is your favourite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Well, there's two. Can I say two?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
just to be contrary, but I'll give you the one. The one that I like the most is E-Myth.
Yeah.
By Michael Gerber. E-Myth to me, or E-Myth Revisited, which is just the second edition. But that book to me is so fantastic for the entrepreneur. It really nails down what people are going through when they go for entrepreneurship. So yeah, I love that. It's kind of done in a fable storytelling type of way, makes it very easy to understand, and really drives home the point of what it takes to be in business for yourself and why it is so unique. The second thing, just I'll throw this out there, is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is Stephen Covey's book, and that's more of a motivational, spiritual, philosophical type of book with 7 ways of how you should think and how you should be in order to be successful. And it's also tremendous. So I would say those two, the first one being strictly business and entrepreneurial, the second one being kind of all about life in general and how you might want to be in life.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting you say that, because when you answer my question about culture, that your thinking seemed to be along the lines of the E-Myth when you were answering that. I think it seemed like that. The sort of structure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I agree with you. I definitely. I didn't read. I read E-Myth for the first time probably 10 or 12 years ago or something. So. My initial take, I don't know whether you're familiar with Strategic Coach up in Canada, but that's where I went. Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan is pretty awesome, and that's where I started in '95 and kind of got that type of an attitude, if you will, just a different view of how things should work or do work. So, yeah.
Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Neil, what I'd like to do with you now is just speculate about the future a little bit with you. What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
The one thing that I would do with my business if I knew that I could not fail would be franchising or licensing my business, which I plan to do, and I have honestly a little bit procrastinated on it, but it's also a very expensive thing to do. So what I've put together, what I've done over the past several years, is all in writing, is all packaged, is nicely put together so that I can train ultimately other people to do what I do. And I really want to do that. And I've been kind of sitting here thinking, okay, when am I going to pull that trigger? When am I going to pull that trigger? So if I knew I couldn't fail, that would be the one thing that I would do immediately.
What skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
I think that the skill would be the prospecting side and follow-up. And I'm getting better at it. Actually picking up the phone and making enough phone calls, getting in front of enough people on a regular basis, and learning how to do that on or in an effective, efficient manner, which, by the way, is one of the things that Casey has been teaching me how to do, because like in any business, but particularly, let's say, in the service business, it's all about getting in front of enough people. So if I could improve one thing and become the best at one thing, it would be the prospecting and follow-up.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I'd like it to say that they said, they being my customers, that they said Neil is an absolutely incredible, priceless asset that has helped me to build a life with financial security and knowledge so that I never have to worry about money again.
We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Neil, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
My favourite quote, I'm going to tell you I have 2 again, but all right, I'm just going to give you the one so I'm not a complete pain in the neck. But my favourite quote is actually by Yoda. Do you know who Yoda is?
Yes,
you know who Yoda is, right?
Star Wars, yeah.
Yes, Star Wars, right. He says, there is no try, only do. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I've almost, and I know I think I said it once or twice during this chat, but I've almost eliminated the word try from my vocabulary. And I work on telling people, don't use that when they say, well, I will try my best to be at a meeting, or I will try my best to get that done. Well, I don't want you to try. I want you to do. And that's what I do, is I do things. I don't try to do things. So that would be my very favorite quote.
So what was your second one?
My second one is from Jerry Maguire. Mm-hmm. I love the movie Jerry Maguire. And, of course, it is when Cuba Gooding and Tom Cruise are talking on the phone, and Tom Cruise is telling Cuba Gooding, why he should remain his client, and it's the only client he ends up with, right? And what does he say? Show me the money. And that is my. Although I do like it when they were in the elevator and they said, or one of them said, "You complete me." I got to say that was very heartfelt. Yeah. But show me the money. I like that better.
And do you have any favourite online resources that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, oh my God. I mean, there's some fantastic stuff out there, I have to say. If I was to name a couple, I'm a big believer in delegation. You know, like if you can get somebody else to do something for you, particularly and mostly those things that you're really not that good at, right? I mean, you don't want to delegate those things that are your excellence, that are your unique ability, but you do want to get rid of those things that you're not good at, you don't have time to do, so that you can make time and have time rather to talk to clients and do some money-making activity. So Fiverr is tremendous. FIVRR.com. FIVRR.com, Fiverr. So, you know, you can get stuff. You can get people all over the world to do stuff for you for $5. $5. And sometimes it might be 10 or 15 because you can buy little upgrades and so forth. But it's a great site for getting things done like logos and websites and all sorts of stuff. It's unbelievable, the type of stuff they do. And then the second one that I like very much is an app that you can put on your phone called IFTTT, which is it stands for If This Then That, and essentially it provides you the ability to put in recipes, not food recipes, but technology recipes, such as when I post on Facebook, post it on Twitter or tweet on Twitter. When I tweet on Twitter, post it to Instagram, blah, 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 blah. So if this, then that. And it's a free app, and you can put in as many recipes as you like, and so you can automate your whole life in terms of, you know, you can post something once and have it be all over the internet in about 5 seconds. It's fantastic.
What is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
My best advice to other entrepreneurs would be never quit. Never quit. If you have something that you want to do, a product that you want to create, a service that you want to provide, don't let anybody talk you out of it. Do it. Figure it out. There's a way for it to work. If it doesn't work, you'll fail, but failure is part of life. Failure allows you to learn. Don't make it a big failure if you can avoid it. Don't put 100% of your assets and your money and your everything so that you can't get up off the ground when you're done. But never quit and never allow anybody to talk you out of pursuing your dream.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Neil's favourite resource or his favourite books, then you can find the links on Neil's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Neil or Neil Palache in the search box. Neil, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Well, you know, mainly, look, if there are people out there, in my case, women divorced or widowed women anywhere in the world listening to this, please feel free to make contact with me. I'm happy on a complimentary basis to chat with you over the phone, on Skype, in person if we're close by geographically. You know, feel free to go to my website at thewealthcreatorcompany.com and subscribe to our newsletter, etc. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I just want to say thank you to Neil. Neil, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. It's been a tremendous, enjoyable 40 minutes or so, and I hope everybody who listens to it gets a lot out of it, which I'm sure they will.
Neil, thank you for that. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show. You really have provided some useful insight into the entrepreneur way, and you've inspired us all. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're very, very welcome. Have a fantastic week.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball.